the panel discussion on innovation and interoperability in healthcare to transform patient outcomes. The moderator for the session will be Mr. Vinodh Soundarajan, Prochant. A little introduction about Mr. Vinodh Soundarajan. He is currently the Chief Technology Officer of Prochant Inc., a revenue cycle technology platform vendor in healthcare. He is also the Group CTO for Katha, a non-profit organization with a goal to educate 300 million children in a sustainable model. He is a knowledge leader in technology and engineering management and is an entrepreneur at heart. He has over 27 years of experience in transformational roles in global software engineering and R&D based out of USA, UAE, and India. He has a rich experience in building and leading IT teams across the world. Prior to Prochant, Katha, and Future Shift, he headed engineering and platform development at Somnoware Healthcare, Merakta UAE, 24/7 Inc. Bangalore, Sum Total Systems USA, JDA, and Mangustics. His domain expert spans healthcare, airlines and logistics, supply chain, and talent management. We welcome you on board, sir. And the next person for the panelists will be, the first speaker will be our Balasubramanian Sankaranarayanan, CEO, Thryve Digital. Through 3 decades of experience in healthcare technology and operational services, Balasubramanian Sankaranarayanan, or Bala as he is fondly called, has been instrumental in building, scaling, and nurturing high-performing, domain-focused businesses. He has excelled in developing lasting relationships with customers, strategic alliances with partners, and driving high-value M&A activities globally. Being a founding member and president and CEO of Thryve Digital, a pioneering global capacity center that is operating in the pay-wider space, Bala is, in his own words, a digital health evangelist and is passionate about the reimagination of healthcare delivery through operational simplification and leverage of innovative healthcare platforms, products, and healthcare solutions. A lifelong learner, Bala has degrees in science, IT, management, and healthcare delivery from institutions such as University of Madras, Manipal Academy, IIM Bangalore, and Harvard Business School. He is passionate about classical music, cricket, and motorsports. We'd like to have you on stage, sir. Our second speaker for the day will be Siva Padmanabhan, AstraZeneca. Siva Padmanabhan is the Managing Director and Head of India Global Innovation and Technology Center at AstraZeneca India Private Limited, shortly called as AZIPL. He is also responsible globally for all enterprise platforms and solutions provided by AstraZeneca IT to the businesses. Since joining AstraZeneca in 2014, Siva has been playing a key role in the transformation of AZIT right from insourcing IT services, building a strong leadership team, developing leading-edge data and digital capabilities, and being a key enabler in expanding AZIPL's Indian footprint and innovation capabilities. Previously, Siva led the global in-house center for IT and digital at Flex, a Fortune 500 company with global accountability for their customer-facing digital and supply chain solutions. His earlier part of the career was in management and technology consultation with PwC in India and the US. Siva has an MBA in finance and information systems from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. We'd like to have you on stage, sir. Thank you so much. The next person on the stage who's already been on stage is Srinivasan Mahalingam, GAFS Technologies. A little introduction about Srinivasan Mahalingam. He leads our healthcare practice and is responsible to build our competencies and executive program on digital transformation, AI and ML, analytics, EHR, FHIR integrations, health cloud and automation across providers and payers. Srini comes with over 21 years of experience in the healthcare IT industry and is joining us from Cognizant Technology Solutions. He has handled multiple complex digital transformation initiatives on both shores and large payers and providers. He was responsible for implementation of a new age digital healthcare core and surrounding platform transformation, customers, businesses, and IT landscape in BPaaS model, and has built the healthcare product consulting practice by providing advisory support, solution reviews. He holds a bachelor's degree of engineering from PSG College of Technology, India, and a PG DBA degree from Symbiosis Center for Distance Education. He holds certification in PAHM, PMP, and AWS Cloud Practitioner. With this, we give it to you to discuss and take it forward, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. First off, thanks to NASSCOM for organizing this multi-city tour. This is amazing, and the kinds of crowd I see in this event, not right now, but generally in this event, is wonderful. Hopefully, the audience is able to take away something useful from each of these sessions and think about it. So with that, let me get started. I'm Vinodh Soundarajan. We have a wonderful panel here with us today, and you already heard about their backgrounds. So we will dive right into the topic of healthcare, innovation, and interoperability. So I know the topic itself is a little loaded, so we'll try to dissect it into different components. So as we all know about healthcare, so there's no need to spend time on that one. Interoperability is very important, and it surprisingly, it costs the United States about $4 billion every year because the systems don't talk to each other. And it's not surprising in one way when we look at our systems within India also. When you go to a hospital, we carry around our folder with us. And every time we go into each physician, doctor's room, we give the folder. So it's in that sense, it's probably not all that surprising either that our data is not centralized. So with that, what we intend to do today is spend some time talking about the general healthcare and life sciences ecosystem, do a little bit of compare and contrast what is happening here in India versus rest of the world, and then move into what kind of collaborations do help, should help, and what should we look forward to in terms of collaboration in the healthcare industry. Then finally, we'll also touch upon technological advancements, including AI, which has been spoken about in all the sessions today probably. So we'll also touch upon AI and how we see it helping the healthcare and life sciences industry in a broad spectrum. So with that, let me get started. And the format of this discussion will be, we will go through each topic area, and each individual panelist will have time to present their experience in relation to that topic. So the first topic, and we'll go from left to right. The first topic is again India versus global landscape. How do the panelists see the healthcare, the life sciences, the research ecosystem in India? How has it been in the last 15, 20, 10 years, and so on? So we'll start with Bala.
Couple of things before I start. One is that I noticed we love to talk, so the sessions get extended and extended. We'll try to be very brief. The second thing I noticed is what Sam tried didn't work. Everybody went out to grab a cup of coffee, I think, to wake up a little. So on the topic of India, let me start with the positives, right, first. I think if you ask me to describe the opportunity in front of us in 3 words, it's leapfrog, transformation. You've seen the ability for India to leapfrog in the telecom space, wherein we sort of went from 2G to 4G and now 5G, bypassing 3G almost. We have done the same in terms of digital payment leadership. We have done something that no other country in the world has at scale. We have managed digital social identity programs at scale. When you have the 130 crore people that we have in our country, establishing some program like this and managing it, it's not an easy task at all. And I believe that this is a tremendous opportunity in India from a healthcare perspective. Let's look at it from a few different dimensions. One would be capacity itself. The second would be the quality, cost, value equation. And the third would be the digital infrastructure required. From a capacity perspective, there are, India is very different in the sense that there are almost 2 Indias that we have to speak about. One towards the top of the pyramid and the other towards the bottom of the pyramid, right? And COVID, I think, did a lot to bringing these 2 parts of the pyramid together in terms of the capacity and the quality of that capacity that we're speaking about. I don't know how many of you got vaccinated. It was a hot topic in the rest of the world, but it was matter of fact, I got myself vaccinated, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And each time I went to the urban primary health center near my place. Now, before COVID, I wouldn't have thought of visiting the UPHC near my place. I would have gone to the nearest Apollos or the Fortises or the Columbia Asias or whichever other large corporate hospital chain that you can think of. We are blessed from the perspective that we can afford it, right? But when I visited the primary health centers, I was amazed at both the quality, the infrastructure, the cleanliness, the hygiene, and the efficiency and effectiveness of the doctors and the physicians and clinicians out there, including the clinical coordinators who are looking into IT systems supporting the vaccination, right? Tremendous steps taken in developing capacity. When you look at quality and cost, as I said, there are these 2 Indias almost. India has always been the leaders in frugal innovation, or jugaad as we call it, fondly. A heart surgery could cost you $100,000 in the developed nation. It's being done on a day-to-day basis, 10 surgeries per cardiac surgeon, and each one of it at $2,500, right? So the level of innovation and the level of frugality that we have already demonstrated in terms of care delivery is tremendous. Now the opportunity is to take it at scale, connect the dots with the capacity. And the last would be the digital infrastructure, right? When you think of the PMJ programs, the ABHA, which is your National Digital Health Records program, the National Digital Health Mission is doing a lot of things. But from a data availability, you look at it this way. Railways, for example, or the ESI database has the largest database from an employee, both a PII perspective as well as a PHI perspective. How can we connect that and leverage that? You look at institutions like Adyar Cancer Institute, and Dr. Shanta had at one point of time the best, the most diverse and the most comprehensive cancer registries in the world, right? So this is an opportunity for us to connect the dots. I think as much as I say the positives, there are challenges as well, right? When you think of the challenges, I'm sure all of us are aware of the leadership that we have in the life sciences manufacturing space, the pharma manufacturing space, particularly in generics. So we are masters at making in India for the world. We just need to start focusing on for India as against for the world. And that starts with prioritization, diseases that are specific to us, the amount of research that we have to do to get novel drug compounds for these diseases, and so on and so forth, right? So it's not an easy decision. It involves billions of dollars of investment as well. The second is, as much as the DBT, the ICMRs of the world are doing excellent work, how do you connect them with all of these data sources that I spoke of that are available to us? The ESI data sources, the railways data sources, and everything else, and the HABAs of the world. Population health management is not a copy-paste from any other country. India is very unique. So the kind of population health research that needs to be done is very, very unique, for us. And that requires a lot of investment. And lastly, I think, everybody speaks of adherence, compliance, off-label usage of most of these drugs, and that is so prevalent in India. When you think of the biggest issues that are coming our way, antibiotic resistance has gone up, opioid abuse is spoken of in the US. Our pharmacy infrastructure is nowhere near as robust or connected or controlled. We can regularly go and buy Schedule H drugs of the pharmacist without anybody batting an eyelid, right? And even in the developed nations, you had significant off-label usage. You have Ozempic, which is semaglutide, which is for diabetes, and the same drug was being used for weight loss and rebranded later after, of course, they got the approval as Wegovy. You have the same issue with Mounjaro, which is another drug from a different company. So I think these are some of the challenges that I see us having to deal with and surpass to get somewhere in the space.
I think Bala's given a very comprehensive answer. I'll add a few things to that. One is, I think the question was also, how do we compare with the rest of the world, right? I think some of the problems we see here are also there in many of the other supposedly advanced markets. If you look at the US, right, for example, there also the fragmentation in EHR standards is very much there. Some of the interoperability challenges are very much there. India has a very unique problem because 70% of our doctors are in the 30% urban areas, right? Whereas the 70% of the patients are in the non-urban areas. So the interoperability and the ability to connect the primary, secondary, and tertiary care is such a huge priority for India if we have to advance the state of healthcare across the country. The other challenge we have is the amount of investment in healthcare as part of the GDP, right? If you look at economies like the US, that's 17-18%, and now we are still in low single digits, even if you combine government investment and private investment, right? But the solution, or a lot of the answer, lies in the ability to innovate that we have here that's very unique. Some call it jugaad, some call it something else, but the frugal innovation, I think, is what's really going to power this, because if you look at the standards that have been defined in the Ayushman Bharat National Digital Health Stack, it is a world-class digital stack, right? It uses the APIs, the microservices, the architecture, the consent management, the interoperability is actually designed into that stack. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think we have a really, really strong framework. Now, the adoption of the framework is, I think, what needs to get accelerated, and it needs all the providers, payers, the pharma companies, all to really come together to accelerate this adoption, right? Government is doing its bit. I think we all need, as players in the industry spectrum, to do it. And the reason why we need to do it is not just for the upliftment of the overall state of health of the nation, which is very important, but also because it then becomes a rich source of research and discovery of new medicines. So if you look at big pharma companies, right, how we do innovation now, it's getting highly personalized, right? It's based on the genotypes, it's based on having, huge repositories, gene banks, and all of that. And a lot of companies are turning to countries like the UK because they have because of the NHS, they have a consolidated source of information of all, but imagine if we had that in India, we would be like, I don't know, dozens of times bigger, right, in terms of the amount of information we will have. So I think the potential is massive, I think the foundation has been laid. I think the journey ahead is going to be how do we bridge from that foundation that's very strong to the potential that we need to reach, not just for uplifting the healthcare of the people in India, but also uplifting the whole world, because when we discover these new medicines, it's going to help everyone, right? Not just people in India. So that, I think, is the promise and the opportunity.
No, thanks, Bala and Shiva. I think I echo a lot of the points that you covered already. But since the question is about how the global healthcare had evolved and how it is applicable for Indian healthcare, right? I think to Bala's point, it's definitely a leapfrog. What the rest of the world they did as a digital transformation in the healthcare in the last 2 decades, we are seeing it in the last 4 or 5 years, and especially thanks to COVID post that. Teleconsulting has become a very, very, very normal, right? We don't even think about traveling 2 hours and going and visiting a doctor, and the first choice is becoming a teleconsulting, right? So that's the kind of change, and it's again because of the technology adoption mindset that we have. Be it patients, be it the providers, the doctors, clinicians, everybody has done that, right? UPA is a classic example, right? We heard it from Otto Anna in the previous sessions, right? How everybody started adapting to the technology, right? The third aspect is definitely the scale and the diversity, right? The population diversity, and Bala mentioned it in the term of pyramid, and we have people with different diverse background going to a hospital where people can afford, all the way to the primary healthcare centers, and how we are going to connect them all together and make patients feel that they'll be able to get the better quality treatment at the same time at the affordable price. That should be the goal for the Indian healthcare industry, and so we are marching towards that, right? I can specifically give 2 examples, right? Number one, there could be a smart ICUs that Indian healthcare fraternity can form. What that means is an ICU command center, where we will be able to have the physical infrastructure in the remote rural part of the country, and we will have people admitted for the critical conditions there, whereas the top-notch specialists can sit in the command center and then treat the patients there, right? At the same time, we can do this for the entire world. Our specialist doctors can sit here with this advanced smart ICUs. They'll be able to treat a patient who's there in US for the affordable reasons that they can come into this model, right? And the last one is value-based care. Global healthcare industry is going towards this, right? And in simple terms, as a patient, if I go to a doctor and then diagnosed with an illness, I have to go through a series of medications, I have to go through a series of tests, I have to get into the admission, inpatient, all these things together as one episode for my illness as a treatment. Why would I go to 10 different places and then pay for 10 different services, right? People should start, global players have started thinking about it, and in India it's going to be the future of healthcare, that they provide the value-based healthcare for the patient.
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, I wish I could have recorded this, all of these, because there are probably about 30, 40 important points that were mentioned in the last 10 minutes. So I'll just touch on 2 or 3, just so that you take it back home. One was about how COVID and the vaccine distribution system, not only within India but across the world, how that changed. That was an interesting data point, an interesting story, case study for us. 2 was about the health stack. How the health stack holds a lot of promise for us, just like the UPI payment stack. And then another one was about telecenters, remote telecenters, and how India is leading the way in home-based care, which is even in some of the most developed countries, home-based care is still struggling. Whereas India, it's as Siva rightly said, how many of us even go to a doctor anymore initially for the first consult? We just send a message saying, hey doctor, here is the thing, and then the doctor will say, okay, why don't you try this? And if you still have fever, come back. So how many of us, the COVID has just changed broken all possible ceilings. So that was great, just calling out the 3 points. takes us into the COVID topic again, takes us into one important topic, which is the next question. How do we collaborate? Because distributing vaccines is a great example. I mean, that has never been done before at this scale. I know vaccines have existed. I know companies manufacturing vaccines have been there before. But distributing at this scale with a small life cycle, so that involves a lot of collaboration. So the next question to the panelists, and this time we'll go around the reverse way. So you get to speak a little longer this time. What should we do from a technology perspective? What should we do to collaborate better? What are the collaboration points? I mean, all the way across the life sciences, research, delivery, healthcare, final patient care. What are the various touch points and how can we do better? What are some 1 or 2 or 3 things we can do to start collaborating? It could be information, whatever it is, how do we collaborate better?
Sure. See, when it comes to collaboration within healthcare, I think about all the 3 P's: payers, providers, and pharma. All of these entities should collaborate to serve the 4th P, that is patient, right? And I don't even want to use the term patients. As an individual, I will call myself as consumer, right? Like how I go and get a service from an Apple store, how I order something from my Amazon and other platform, I need to get the service at the best quality, right? So not a patient, I'm a consumer. So these 3 entities, definitely, obviously, the collaboration is very important. And today, to be very honest, the collaboration across these 3 players are very, very, very minimal, right? Not only in the Indian healthcare context, but in the global healthcare context, right? There would be a good data interoperability within a provider setup, could be a multiple chain of hospitals, clinics, etc. Same with the health insurance, the payers, and the pharma, right? But then if you really talk about collaborating across all these 3, we are just have scratched the surface. And so the basics of the data interoperability between all these things is very, very critical, in my opinion. So if you take the pharma industry, the clinical trials, and then slowly getting into the manufacturing and supply chain, again, COVID vaccine is the classic example, right? We did wonders. We just witnessed how soon it was introduced, how the entire world got vaccinated into that. And that is the speed that is expected, right? Not just when a crisis comes into picture, but in general. And the second is, with a provider, when I go for a treatment, right? How easy it is for me as a patient when I go there, I'm getting registered, waiting to see the doctor, then I was asked to go and take an X-ray, then I'm asked to go and do a blood sample in some lab, and again come back to the doctor for a review. Then surprisingly, right, unfortunately, I'm asked to get admitted for the treatment, get a room, and insurance approval. All of us will love that, right? We'll have to submit that and we'll have to wait for that insurance approval, whether it's cashless and all that. Man, I don't want to go there, right? It's better I live with the sickness and come out. But all these parties should come together and collaborate. That's when we will really see how seamless, a patient can walk into a healthcare facility, get the treatment as required, come back and get the rest of the treatment from home, right? You touched upon the home care. I don't want to go to a doctor again, drive 2 hours and just say that, okay, you are doing all right, you can go back home. I will take everything, virtually from home, take the home care and relax and, start thinking about next time I do not want to, fall sick again. So that's about it.
Okay, so I go next. So yeah, I think you touched on something very interesting there, the comparison between a consumer and a patient. So if you look at the retail and consumer goods industry, right, they have been for decades consumer-centric, right? Everything's about the consumer. If you look at Amazon, it exists so that the consumer is thrilled, right? That's their motto, right? Every single process thought of from the eyes of the consumer and their sort of great experience, right? So If you look at healthcare, though, this is still not there, right? It's not patient-centric as much as it should be, and that's what this collaboration should be all about. It's not. It's primarily for creating that fantastic patient experience, right? Once we have that as the goal, then everything sort of falls in place, whether it be the payer, the provider, the pharma company, etc. So the collaboration is very kind of linked to the interoperability. If you look at it from a pharma company perspective, this interoperability and collaboration is so crucial to everything we do, right? If you look at across our value chain, right from the discovery of new medicines, which I touched on earlier, which is personalized now. So we need the data on what's happening in the real world, right, to discover new medicines. You have to look at real world evidence to see if a medicine is actually effective or not. And we are talking about new paradigms such as value-based contracting, which means that a payer is going to contract with a pharma company based on the actual outcomes that patients actually achieve, rather than paying for each shot or each unit of the. So to know that, is it actually being effective or not, we need the full interoperability across the chain, right? We need to understand what's happening to the patients, what is the actual real world outcomes that the patient's able to achieve. So that just is the crux of every single thing we do, whether it be discovery, whether it be development, where we need to really be looking at faster uptake of the clinical data, faster notification of adverse events that are happening in the different clinical research organizations, the ability to spot patterns in those trials that we can actually use to either modify the trials or have new protocols. Then you look at the physician education. We look at rare disease, which is one of the areas that pharma companies like us are getting into, which is really, it's as important to find the patient as it is to find the medicine, right? Because there are very few patients, there are a few hundred patients versus millions of patients. How do we do that? We can do that only with the partnership with the payer and the provider ecosystem and the access to the data. Of course, we have to respect the privacy considerations and all of that. So from a pharma perspective, this interoperability is so crucial. The emerging technology architectures, including the microservices frameworks, the APIs, all of that as an IT community we are all very familiar with, is really going to be called upon as health tech advances, right? To really componentize every single aspect of this so that we can actually call on what's actually required versus calling for everything, what's actually permitted by the different privacy laws and everything. So that almost becomes seamless without compromising privacy, without compromising regulation. We can actually seamlessly collaborate, and that's really what the future is going to have to look like, right? So from a patient, to make sure the patient has a fantastic experience.
On a lighter note, I think it's pretty common in healthcare that payers don't talk to providers, providers don't talk to pharma. If you look at within pharma, manufacturing doesn't talk to sales and marketing, manufacturing doesn't talk to R&D. If you look within R&D, biology doesn't talk to chemistry, and none of these guys talk to IT, folks who are around them, right? But on a serious note, I think we are in an age of what I would like to call a data paradox, right? Dr. Said, who used to lead external innovation at Sanofi, she came up with this saying, from a knowledge generation perspective, we have never had as much knowledge about the human body or diseases or drugs, in the history of life sciences. But from an innovation perspective, healthcare overall has been the worst performing industry. In the last 10 years, we've been so suboptimal that it's amazing. So it's very interesting that, she says this, because when you look at COVID, that's a classic again. Siva speaks about agility a lot. And, that's a classic case of people collaborating to get out a vaccine in double quick time. And, it's not just that company that broke the historical precedents, if you will, right? Pharma has never collaborated or shared intellectual assets as openly as it did during the COVID. Pfizer, for example, and sorry, Siva, I'm using a competitor's example. Pfizer, classic case. They got into an agreement with, BioNTech without signing the dotted line over a handshake, intellectual assets were shared. And that has never happened before in the history of pharma, right? And you look at the kind of collaboration that they needed to make. Yes, they doubled down on a new mRNA, unproven aspect, yes. They went all in. They took advantage of certain regulatory, let's say, relaxations that existed at that point of time as well. But they needed to collaborate not just with their partners who were developing the vaccine, but they needed to partner with the folks, you know, let's say the Chinese researchers who gave them the genotype of the vaccine itself, of the virus itself. They needed to collaborate with the folks who are manufacturing the boxes that would ship these vaccines at very, very high or very low temperatures that were required, very specialized boxes. They needed to partner with folks that were developing the nanotechnology vesicles that would develop or that would deliver the mRNA, that would deliver the vaccine to the right place. So it required a significant amount of collaboration. So what I think is required is hyper collaboration, which essentially means that the innovation ecosystem will be the one delivering the outcomes as against individual organizations or individual entities, right? So when you think of, let's say, this ecosystem, the premise has to be that somebody somewhere has figured out how to do this, and it's not in your company, right? So when you have that go-in premise, you will fight for the right technology, the right partnership, the right resources to make sure that value is created and defended. And I think that is where you know, the stakeholders have to come together. It is not easy. And the alliances and the ecosystem, this has historically been tried before, less than successfully, you know, in the healthcare space. But again, this is a new age, new era, and hopefully this hyper collaboration will become a reality going forward.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to take away hyper collaboration from this round, and I think there's a lot to be done there. So in the last 10-15 seconds each, again we'll go this way. What is the number one AI benefit you foresee using AI in the next, say, 5 years in this space? Just number one, in your opinion.
AI is going to be huge. But again, I'd like to talk about two things. One is primum non nocere, which is, hey, first do no harm. How do we make sure that that is taken care of? This is, by the way, part of the Hippocratic Oath as well, right? That the doctors and the physicians have to pick up. Now, how do we make sure that the AI engine, we call it paternalism in medicine, which is in God we trust, in doctors we trust. Now, can we just directly translate that into in the AI model that is supporting the doctor in making the diagnosis we trust? That is a question that we need to answer as a collective ecosystem to make sure that things go forward and forward well.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, from the life sciences, I think the biggest impact of AI will be getting medicines to market faster. All the way from discovering to developing to launching, right, and getting it to patients faster. Every aspect of that value chain is being accelerated through AI, and what that means is patients are waiting for this medicine. Life-saving medicines will get it soon.
No, I had lots, Vinodh, but you didn't give me time. But of course. But I want to just use Gen AI, because if I don't use the word here, I'll be disqualified from this panel. So two things that in healthcare Gen AI is going to help is, number one, as a patient, right? I want Gen AI solution to help on the clinical notes, how much of time a patient and a doctor, clinicians can spend together, not just typing or keying something in the computer, right? That's number one, which we already started working on. And second is on creating something like a discharge summary and then expedite the process of the discharge, right? As a patient, if I'm able to get discharged from the hospital in less than 30 minutes, that's when we have achieved through AI. Thank you.
Amazing. I think there are...
By the way, both these use cases are already in production. Docs AI, it's already in the production out there, so in the US at least.
Yep.
Thank you. I was going to just say that probably a few startup ideas right there, if anybody is interested. All right. Thank you so much. And if you have any quick questions, the panel can take it right now. Any questions? Okay, there are a couple of questions here.
Can Gen AI go to the level of self-medication? Because already I think people are doing self-medication at some level, allopathic or Ayurvedic. But when Gen AI further develops and when some more information about medicines are available very much in the internet, can Gen AI go to advanced self-medication?
I can take a quick stab at it. Okay. My answer would be no, because AI is not artificial intelligence. It is augmented intelligence, in my opinion, right? And especially in the healthcare industry. And in the previous session, they talked a lot about AI, responsible AI, right? So in the healthcare industry, it's more so very, very important. Self-medication through Gen AI is definitely not the way for it, right? And one quick example, right, in one of the other forum when we discussed, they talked about the AI bots replacing, doctors, clinicians, and all that, right? So are they kidding? No, it's not about replacing doctors, right? And a prognosis or a diagnosis report shows that a patient is diagnosed with a very, very serious illness, and you want a bot to directly dial the patient and say that, hey, by the way, you have been diagnosed with this, rush immediately to hospital, get admitted, otherwise it's going to be fatal. There has to be some empathy into it, right? That's where the healthcare is, right? So we will achieve a lot through Gen AI, but not the self-medication. It's absolutely not.
Thank you, everybody. We've been asked to get ready for the next session. Thank you very much. Any questions, we'll just be right outside. Please step out for any questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, moderator and panelists, for an engaging session. And now I'd like to invite Ms. Kavya from NASSCOM to felicitate Mr. Vinodh Soundarajan. Mr. Vinodh will now felicitate Mr. Balasubramanian Sankaranarayanan. Next, Mr. Vinodh will felicitate Mr. Siva Padmanabhan. Mr. Vinodh will now felicitate Mr. Srinivasan Mahalingam. Thank you.